right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sports Break, the podcast. I am super excited to be joined today by Shauna Griffiths, the founder of SLG Impact, host of the podcast This with Shauna Griffiths, and the Chief Client Officer for CMD Agency. Shauna, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. It's an absolute honor. I was so excited when you reached out to me.
Oh man, I love to hear that. I love just meeting people in different arenas and just having this chat about, something that really can tie a lot of people together, which is just a love of sports or a history of playing sports. So before we get into your history real quick, can you tell us a little bit about what you currently do career-wise? All that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am full-time at a creative agency that is based in Portland, Oregon, but we are expansive across the country. So the agency is called CMD. So again, I'm Chief Client Officer. So I get the joy of leading a team of people, about 20 people, and working a lot with our clients. So it's a lot of fun. I get to use my marketing brain, use my deal making brain, and also, do a lot of leadership, which I love to do. So that's part of my life. And then the other part is I did founded SLG Impact during the pandemic when I had been laid off. And then I started the podcast, This, which is really very much, the podcast is very much to elevate the voices of diverse, authentic leaders, because I think that there is a shortage of attention that being given to leaders who are really leading authentically and having an impact on people in a positive way. So it was very much born out of the time when there was so much going on with social injustice to people of color, women, LGBTQ plus, arena. So it's my passion and I love to do it.
That's awesome. Well, and kudos to you for having an idea and starting it. So many people, have ideas. So it's your passion. Yeah. Have you really enjoyed what maybe has been the best thing out of starting the podcast?
Yeah, I think it's very much meeting people, and because it's all about authentic leaders, meeting and really actually establishing relationships with people that I didn't know, but also being able to bring on people who I have known for so long and just really believe in. So that's been wonderful. And then you probably feel this way too, when you put it out and then I'm actually hopeful that anybody pays attention to it. And then if I see people say, oh yeah, I watched your teasers or I listened, I'm like, really? So when you create something just out of passion and from literally nothing, to me, that's what I've enjoyed so much, is seeing it. And then when it actually starts to resonate with people, it's just feel proud.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And it's so true. Yeah. It's like something that you've taken such time and care for, and then, one person gets something out of it. It's amazing, That's awesome. Well, cool. Well, thank you for the little bit of background, because we do also like to hear, about your athletic history and maybe what you learned from sports that can relate. So it's just good for people to know what you do. But yeah, so you played basketball at the University of Michigan.
I did.
And you've been a cross country runner. You're a cyclist. Can you tell us about your athletic career, if you will? How'd you get started and all that stuff?
Yes. So I actually got started playing basketball when I was 10, and it was a very poignant moment for me because I didn't grow up with parents who were into sports at all. My mom had been an equestrian, but that's not a typical sport, And so I went to some picnic that my mom had, and my coach, who I adore to this day, Little John, he literally was like, showed me a basketball. Like I really never had been around a sport like that before. And he took me to the court, and I don't know, I just started shooting around and had so much fun. And then I just got into his AAU program. So that's really for me what I just felt like. So it was fun. I felt accepted. I felt this new group of people that I felt like I could belong in. And so that really started it for me. And I was kind of pretty much a basketball junkie. Loved the sport early on. And so I played for my high school, I played in AAU. And then I was obsessed with just the game. And when nowadays people who are in high school are thinking about what they want to go to college for, they're thinking about their career. When I hear people talk about it now, I'm like, oh, really? Because I wasn't thinking about that at all. All I was thinking about was I wanted to play basketball.
I love it.
And so I was fortunate enough to play at the University of Michigan. I actually grew up in Ann Arbor, so it was great to, do that. And so I did that. And then I used my 5th year of eligibility to run cross country and at Eastern Michigan University. So it's one of those things where people are like, wait, what? And, it's such a different type of sport. And so I had started just running a lot for conditioning. And so I just loved being out there. And, it was quite frankly, a lot of the people on the team, well, I guess I would say a lot of people on the team were better than me. And so they just had more raw talent. And so when I was like, well, if I came every year at top condition and continued to stay in top condition, there were some things that I could beat them to the ball or beat them in endurance. So that was just like what I did. And I actually didn't play my 4th year of basketball. There was a lot going on. I was focusing on my academics. And then I was running more. So yeah, so that was kind of the story behind the strange change from basketball to cross country. So yeah, so that was it really. And then again, I was so obsessed with the basketball game, that I kind of obsessively found a way into my career in basketball. So I started with Nike with a WNBA program they had. So that sort of gets you to that part. And I feel like I've been talking a lot, so I'll pause.
No, that's what we want. Yeah. Well, that's cool too, how it led straight into it. A couple questions just going back. So I love that you know your coach's name still, like you still have a lot of respect. Like I too, like I have a high school basketball coach that I would run through a brick wall for. Right. And what do you think it is about that relationship, and have you seen that translate into business in any way?
Yeah, it's actually a really great topic. My high school basketball coach too, Coach Kempf. I still call him Coach Kempf. His name is Tom. I could call him Tom, but that seems so weird to me coming out of my mouth. And I still message him out of the blue. I just have such an appreciation. Sorry for my dog.
Oh, you're good.
I have such an appreciation for the impact they had on my life. And I came from a family where I had a lot of change going on, and I didn't feel a lot of stability in my family environment. I had, parents married and divorced numerous times. And so for me, my coaches really provided this sense of constant mentoring. I felt this sense of stability, that I knew that I belonged when I went to practice. I felt like they would look out for me. Like my little John, to this day, he'll call me baby girl. And growing up, that meant a lot to me. And I learned a lot about discipline. And some people, I think, have a negative connotation with discipline. And when I talk about it, I just mean that priorities and little John used to talk about this coming up, and it's crazy that I'm talking about this, things that I remember from when I was 10 years old. But this whole thing, we literally used to use the word pride, was one of the chants that we did. And it was about pride in how you showed up every day, pride in how hard you worked. And so I think that was something that I got so much from the game and from his coaching. And then again, through high school, Coach Kemp, it was he would open up the gym for me before school, after school. When I was in college, he would, during the summers when I was trying to stay in shape and up my game and all that, he would go to the gym with me. He had no reason to do that other than he cared. And he would go to the gym with me and do shooting drills all summer long with me and things like that. So, I don't really know what to say other than they cared. They cared about me as a human, that they were going to put their time and energy and actually prioritize my development, my evolution. And it's so funny, I haven't really thought about this. I'm so glad you asked the question. I do think that that's been a part of my focus on leadership as an adult and in my work. It's that it's not about me per se, like it wasn't about Coach Camp, it wasn't about Little John. When I'm working with my staff and trying to lead forward, it's I'm evolving, they're evolving, you can see it. And then it's like, I use a lot of sports analogies when I'm leading. And, it's like, I literally say, you come to work to earn the right to come back the next day. And that is the same as I would say in sports. Like, I literally felt like I was earning the right to come back to the team, to my starting spot, whatever that was. And so you worked hard every day. You're going to make mistakes, of course, but it is just that constant desire to evolve, to be better, to be at the top of your game, and to win together. I've never been a person that's like, oh, this is about me. Again, I played team sports to a large degree. And that's actually something I didn't like so much about cross country. So I was like, wait, it's so weird. And because it's not been about even competing against other people individually. It was to win as a team, to find that success, that camaraderie. And again, that's how I operate in business.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think you're right. Like, I think discipline can get a negative connotation, but I'm the same way. Like, still to this day, my favorite workout is find me an open gym, and I will do all the running and like all the layup drills and everything like that. Like, it's still one of my things that's just like, I feel accomplished afterward because I know what I need to get done and I do it, and no excuses thing. So I do think that translate. And I love too that you said winning as a team and, like building each other up. I just think those are things that you uniquely learn through playing sports, I find. So I love that. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much. And it's interesting. I think that it also helps in my mind about teams is that it's not just the coach, or it's not just the head of the department or the head of the company that are coaching and that are impacting the other people around. It's also this, like, everybody has an opportunity to be a leader to the degree that you can. So like when I was in college playing and I wasn't, I wasn't starting every game and things like that. Well, I felt like I was leading I was actually just talking about this the other day, my teammate Silver, who I still message with sometimes. It was my job, I felt, every practice to be in her shorts and make it so hard for her so that when she was, stepping the court started, she was game ready. And so again, I think there's this interesting thing, like you learn to lead on a team, you learn to lead from behind, from the side, in front at different times, so, I think that's another interesting thing about the team dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. Well, and you did mention cross country can feel more individual. I mean, I think you're still a team, but you're running your own race, right? And cycling, I know you cycle a lot now, I think there is something beautiful too about like sport outdoors, where it is maybe a more individual, but do you find that it gives you a chance to connect with yourself or anything like that?
Yeah. So you did speak about my cycling. So when I met my husband, I guess it was, I'm like pausing on how long ago it was. It's so silly. Like 8.5 years ago. He was big into cycling and I had just loved I lived in New York City at the time and I loved riding my bike around New York City as my mode of transportation. And so, actually what he was a mountain biker most, but he kind of did every version of cycling. And I didn't even really know what mountain biking was. Like I didn't understand that it was like on the trails, which is actually a whole funny story that I can tell later about cross country. I did not know that cross country was, when I started running, I didn't know that it was like on courses and like on a trail anyway. And so he and I started riding together, and it is really interesting. Like it is a connection with self being out there, and it's such a mind. It's probably a lot of times any discipline of cycling. So we mountain, road, gravel, we do kind of every version. And it's a mental discipline because it's very much physical too. I mean, I literally had to learn that you ride over the features. You don't ride around them, which I didn't know. But there's a team aspect for me when I'm out there a lot of times because my husband and I ride together. And so that's actually one of the most fun times for me. We will be flying down, like if it's road riding, and calling out whether there's a car or there's something in the road. And sometimes it's like the cadence of our pedaling together. I get all fired up. I'm getting fired up talking about it. It just feels like we're this machine together. And so I say that because I still think that as much as I do appreciate the individual element of being out there and connecting with myself and the mental challenge as well as the physical challenge, I also get really stoked on that team chemistry that can happen. And when we do endurance races, so I mentioned to you, we just did a 100-mile mountain bike race out in Bend a few weeks ago, and we do it together. And so a lot of times, especially if it's a man and a woman, they won't necessarily stay together. And it was funny because we were out there and this woman said, who was working the race at some point during the race, like at one of they have 8 stations. And she was like, do you two ride together the entire race? And we were like, well, of course. And what she said it struck me. She says, that takes commitment. And I found it such an interesting comment from her because to me, I'm like, but of course we stay together. We're a team. But she was like, almost in her mind, it was like work for us to stay together. So it's just a sort of an interesting dynamic. I think I do gravitate towards finding that team, that camaraderie, that chemistry as part of the fuel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think for most of the people that I've talked to on this podcast, if they came from team sports, that's the thing they miss more than anything. And it's so cool to hear you talk about the communication skills that that are a part of your cycling, but also, that's definitely something that I feel people get from playing sports as kids, is you learn how to communicate effectively, or, you can't just get frustrated and storm off the court, right? Like you got to be able to communicate your feelings, or like, like move on quickly from something that you did wrong or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also, so I'm going to get a little nerdy in basketball for a minute, but we ran the flex offense, and we did a lot of, in our defense, it was a lot of man-to-man defense, but a lot of that rotation defense. And so I think and this was in high school, actually in AAU too, now that I'm thinking about it, but it was so much that communicating as well. And it was I remember that feeling of so much excitement that if you like called something out and your person rotated over, it was, you kind of operated like this amoeba out there, and you could really make amazing things happen that way. And so, I think it's so funny. I don't think about the, in such a granular level usually, but it's kind of, I appreciate the opportunity to have this conversation because I'm like, oh yeah, that's where a lot of that came from. And, in business as a leader, I'm so big on communication, over communicate, and manage people's expectations, help them to connect dots, to see where, that where's the open gap, who's shifting over type thing. And, I just think it's so important. It really does take the like me aspect out of it. And you can truly operate as a team and just thrive. So one of my teams at CMD, just last week, actually, we had a client in-person meeting, and we haven't had a lot of client in-person, very few, and obviously because of the pandemic. And the chemistry that the team had in that room with the client, like it was just like that, the defense transitioning, the team coming together. It was like, you could imagine, you'd be like, the way they were working together was like, oh, you could imagine, say it's like the alley-oop type thing. And to watch the team also celebrate afterward each other. And yeah, so I talk about it, I get all excited. That's what I thrive on.
I love it. And yeah, like you said, the celebration too. That's such a big part of being on a team. And like at the end of each game, like a game is part of a season, like they're just still steps to either celebrate or learn and pivot. And Yeah, it's just really cool to hear. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you said pivot, and that triggered something else. I think is really interesting because, when you play a sport, you usually have, and if you lose or something, or you win, and you still are going to be like, you know what, that didn't work well, and you have those kind of postmortems almost, if you would call in or recaps or whatever you want to call it. But I think that's one of the things that I love too, that we have a practice of in CMD, and it's always been a practice of mine as well, is that even when you win, when you don't win, there are usually things, almost always things that you can improve upon, whether that's certain individuals, how the team worked together, everything from the preparation to the actual, call it, performance together. And so I really appreciate that. And there's also that degree of accountability in it. And I think that growing up as an athlete, I learned about accountability. I needed to be there doing my thing. I couldn't let my team down. If I didn't rotate over and the person like went to the hole, or I didn't rotate over and get my hand up in somebody's face and they shot, like, I wasn't going to sulk about it, but I was like, damn, that's on me. And so you got to get there next time. And so again, I look for those things as in my professional life as well. I think, again, it's all about how can we continue to evolve as individuals, the team, so that we can continue to, find the path to success and improve along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, gosh, I could talk about this for hours. I just love hearing and like seeing the connections people make. It's just so cool. But let's get into some rapid fire if that's okay. And then we'll figure out, we'll tell people how to connect with you and CMD and SLG.
Yeah.
Impact. And,
thank you.
But yeah, no, just thanks for open, like being open. And this is the stuff that is really fun. It's just like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. That makes sense. So I've loved getting to chat.
Thank you, me too.
Okay. Yeah. But are you ready for some rapid fire?
Okay. Rapid fire. I'm on.
Okay. All right. What is your favorite sports movie?
This is going to sound so cheesy, but I really did love, and I'm totally blanking on the name of it now, the Michael Jordan one that came out recently. I want to call it Rare Air, but that's not what it was called.
The documentary, or?
Yes, the documentary.
Oh, okay. Oh,
love that. But I really loved and again, I'm blanking on names for some crazy reason, but the Formula One related movie that came out recently as well. Yeah, so those are two that stand out for me.
I thought for a second you were going to say Space Jam. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, respect.
I have to say, I've actually never seen Space Jam, which is, I'm not sure if I should be proud or embarrassed.
Oh yeah, no. And do you mean the Ford Ferrari one? That one?
Oh, I loved that too. Okay, no, there's been another one that was on, I think it was on Netflix. Again, I don't know why I'm blanking, but
I've become such an F1 fan in the last year.
Oh my God, I love F1. I became a fan when I met my husband. He's British, and we watch, I pay a lot of attention to the non-traditional American sports.
Love it. I love it. Well, and sorry, we're on a tangent, but the first Tour de France for women happened in July.
That was amazing.
Right?
It was so good to see. And so I watch a lot of cycling. We watch a lot of the mountain biking. If people who are listening sometime tuned in to like women's downhill mountain bike racing, will blow your mind. These women are crazy amazing, but also just, again, on the road, or there's cross country races. But I just think it's so fun. It's so awesome to see the sport and to see women, as athletes, not getting that kind of second fiddle. I still think there is to some degree, but you're seeing so much more I'll call it the rise, which is ridiculous, but they just celebrated their 25th anniversary last year. But the WNBA, to see that just like explode in the past couple of years. And I think part of it's been because of the support of the male players, I have to say, when they came out with the like orange hoodie that all the guys were wearing and stuff. So I'm proud. I'm so excited to see it all. Yeah.
Well, and like the craziest lead to the playoffs maybe ever these past couple weeks for the WNBA. So yeah. Okay, back to rapid fire. What's your favorite Gatorade or Powerade flavor?
Oh, lemon lime for some reason was always my favorite. I haven't had it for a long time, but that was my favorite.
Awesome. Okay. Not including a sport that you have already played, but if you could be amazing at any sport, which sport would you want to be amazing at?
Surfing.
Ooh, good answer. Fun.
It's so fun. It is so hard, and it's so fun and constantly challenging. And yeah, so I've done some surfing, but I have a bit of a like fear and love of it.
Yes. Yes. That's probably healthy, right? There's a healthy fear to it. Yeah. All right. Who are your favorite sports teams?
Favorite sports teams. Manchester United, although they're not doing well again. Again. I love mountain bike race, downhill mountain bike racing. I love this team called Syndicate, which is like this legends have been on it. Steve Pete, who's a legend, we named our dog after him. Her name is Petey. So there's my true love of it. What else? It's kind of funny. I've worked in the NBA. I was never that much of like love the teams per se. I love I gravitate more to certain players. But I did grow up being in a huge, Detroit Pistons, because they were like the whole bad boys era. But then the Chicago Bulls, of course, because Michael Jordan. But did I already say Mercedes? Because we talked about Formula One. Mercedes has been my team. Lewis Hamilton was just unbelievable for so long. And then George Russell has been just coming on. So he keeps right. He's right there. So I'm not so happy with Verstappen winning so much this year. I'm like, no, but so yeah, you get a little bit of the traditional, but also the non-traditional sports.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And we could probably watch an F1 race together. It sounds like we pull for the same people and don't pull for the same people. So that's amazing.
I love that.
Okay, two more.
Okay.
Who's your favorite athlete? Either like growing up or like who is inspiring you today still, maybe?
Well, Michael Jordan, my room was like, posters of Michael Jordan. And, it's funny because I think kids now, they may like, they know who he is, or who, you know what I mean, who he was on the court. But when you're actually growing up in that era with him being so just insane out there. So him, and then Sue Bird, I have to say, has been what an absolute, she's just legendary. In her, and I think Diana Taurasi, I think they've been amazing to see. And again, like I worked for Nike. I worked with the two different WNBA teams when the league was starting and getting going. So I just love to see that they are transcending just the game itself. I think Sue recently bought into the New York, New Jersey, Gotham, women's sports team. And you're like, so awesome to see. So I think, again, as humans, also like what she stands for. And anyway, so those are some of my people.
Love it. Awesome. All right. This is the one I ask everyone. If you could get tickets for life for one sport event, you get tickets anytime it happens. So it could be every year, it could be every 4 years. What event are you getting tickets for life for?
So my answer is, I'll call it the EPL. So, which is actually now called the BPL, I believe, the Premier League, basically Premier League soccer, football. And it's because I say that my answer would have been basketball previously. It would have been like NBA, WNBA, NBA. But it changed when I actually went to a Manchester United game at Old Trafford. The experience is so incredible because, again, I worked in the league that when it used to be very much just like the game itself, but then over the years it became so much more of this like entertainment experience. And I know why that, at the time I was part of it, so we all were doing that at the team side. But to go to the game, the Manchester United game, like the fans are doing it by themselves. They're leading and coming up with the chants, the cheers, the energy is just like electrifying. And I don't know, it just seems to me like more pure of the sport itself. So that would be it.
Love it. That's amazing. A great answer. Well, thank you again for coming on. Do you want to tell folks where they can find you online? And we'll post everything in the show notes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to slgimpact.com. We've got the podcast, This with Shauna Griffiths. We have a blog that I write for, and then we have guest authors. It's called That. I have a monthly newsletter I put out, which I love doing. We just put out the August one. So next one is September. And later this month, I'm coming out with more short form content. So again, you can follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me, follow me. And I'm also on Instagram, SLG Impact, but also Shauna Rides Bikes is my personal handle. So I really do appreciate the opportunity to come on. I hope that those listening have, had a little bit of fun with it. And I look forward to connecting with anybody who's listening who wants to.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks again. Such an honor to have you on, and so fun. And yeah, we'll put all those links in the show notes so everyone connect, and just thanks again.
Amazing. Thank you so much.